You're recording now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of the HooperCast. I'm Hooper, and this is my CarCast today. And it can be yours, too. I don't want to withhold that from you. Anyway, making his debut on the podcast is Mr. Ian Weaver.
Hello.
And it's because of him that this episode is being brought to you today. So, thanks, Ian.
You're welcome, Connor.
We're in the car because, what time is it? It is 8 o'clock in the morning, and we are headed down to Orange Beach to get some furniture before I have to be in for work.
So what is it now? You got to be at work at 1:30?
1.
And
yeah.
We're driving like 24 miles an hour on a I-10.
Yeah, we're driving very slow.
We're going to get there. You math wizards out there can help us out.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't really have much to talk about today.
We're unscripted.
We're unscripted, yeah. We're just
kind of going with the flow of the road, you could say.
Yeah. We're going wherever the road takes us. Anyway, you were telling me before we started recording something about Justin Bieber.
Oh, yeah, the Biebs. In the Twitterverse, I found out the other night something was trending. And if you don't know anything about Twitter, you know, whenever you see the hashtags, that's usually somebody trying to get something out there so that, like, the rest of the Twitterverse can see. Twitterverse is anybody who's on it. It's just like Facebook. It's like whoever your friends are. But so I saw the hashtags, and it said, Biebs is a murderer. And so I checked.
So naturally, you were like, what?
Biebs is a murderer, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this day to come for a long time. And I'll be honest.
There's something about him.
He's not awful. Like, when he first came out, like, obviously, like, a 12-year-old screaming into a microphone is, like, awful to listen to. But now it's not so bad, and you can kind of listen to it, whatever. I don't listen to a whole lot of pop music, but if it's on the radio, I remember when I first heard Boyfriend, or If I Was Your Boyfriend, whatever it's called, I had no clue it was Justin Bieber. I thought it was Justin Timberlake. So that tells you, I mean, he's obviously...
It's a very, very Timberlake-ish song.
Yeah, he's improved. But anyway, so I see Biebs is murder. And I click on Biebs is murder, and it was this big article about how apparently Biebs, who was in his Lamborghini, not driving his Lamborghini, and I believe it was white, I can't remember, but...
Wait, hold on. So it's like, he bought the car, and it's like, this car is so money. You know what's even more money about it? If I don't have to drive it myself.
Right. Well, that and he's like 15, so I don't know how
the kid's like 18 or 19
That's true.
Old.
He has like a tattoo now, and I guess you have to be a certain age to get those, don't
you? Listen... The rules do not apply to Justin Bieber.
That's true.
Including like the rules of drive your nice car. Like, I don't know.
And apparently don't kill people.
That's worse. That's worse than like buying like a 1968 Jaguar. All the car people are going to be like, there isn't a 68 Jag. Shut up.
I knew what you were talking about.
There is, in fact, a 1968 Jaguar. But the people who buy like those really nice classic cars, and they just clean them, and they just wax them every day and keep them in their garage. And it's like, it's worse than them. Because this guy has a nice car, and it's being driven, but not by him!
Yep. It's probably his mother, or so. I didn't actually say in the article, it just said that he wasn't driving. It made it perfectly clear that there was like, this is not Bieber's fault, he wasn't driving. But anyway, so the reason...
Well, it's not his fault. Anyway, keep going.
He killed somebody, right? Or at least, I'm going to say he killed somebody.
Okay, well, what happened is someone died.
Right. And so I read this article, and I read through it. And, you know, normally on the internet, you can't believe everything, like, in the first read, right? So I read, like, a few news articles, and what had apparently happened was, I learned a new word. That's what happened. Apparently, the word paparazzo, I think it means, like, a single...
It's singular,
Singular, yeah. And I guess it means man, because it would be paparazza if it was a woman, right? Oh, we're in the tunnel. Hold your breath. Did you speed up there at the end? It felt like you sped up because you're like, I can't hold my breath.
The cruise control, like, I was doing okay. Like, that's not as hard as it used to be
when you were a kid, that was miserable, man. I tell you what, singing for like 8 years, really, you can hold your breath all day, all night.
Is it just me, or when I'm using like a U-Haul, something I rented from U-Haul, I see U-Hauls everywhere?
Oh, it's like one of those things like...
it's like in Grand Theft Auto when you take one
yeah,
of the
absolutely.
motorcycles
Oh, that was a great... what is that? An analogy?
That's an analogy.
Yeah, I wish I would have paid attention more in English. But anyway, so paparazzo is singular, and I'm assuming man, because I would assume paparazza is girl.
If it followed the rules of
masculine, feminine, or whatever.
Well, yeah, of actual, like, roots of names and Latin. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So apparently, this guy is tailing Biebs. Like, Biebs is driving down the road in this Lambo, and I'm hoping I really hope this paparazzo was driving a Lambo too. Because how else are you going to keep up with a Lambo? I'm sure he was obeying all the speed rules, But I read this article where this man apparently went, just took off a cliff and died. And I know it's awful to laugh about, but it's just the fact that this man was trailing Justin Bieber.
It was so, and that's what he's got to tell everybody, like up and he's going to be up there and be like, well, what'd you do? I fell off a cliff. Oh, it's awesome, man, yeah. Wait, what were you doing on a cliff? I was following Justin Bieber.
That's when
I'm going to be like, ah!
That's when God's like, get out.
Yeah.
Just get out. But, it's like, it's one of those things that it was kind of strange because I really don't text and drive.
Uh-huh.
And it'd be really, I don't text and drive. I usually don't even get on the phone when I'm driving. But with the new phone, it's kind of nice because I can, like, push a button and say, hey, call Connor. And it'll call you. And that's a great feature, whatever, but I don't use it. But, like, is that going to be a new thing now? Is that going to be a new California law? Like, don't paparazzi and drive? Well, he had to have been taking pictures or
first of all,
tailing it. I don't know what you would do.
I have an opinion of this as well. Like, first of all, don't text and drive, people. The HooperCast does not endorse texting and driving. Now, I cannot say that I'm innocent of this thing, but it takes me forever to send a text while I'm driving because I'm trying to be safe, and I do most of it at a stoplight.
Right.
So please don't text and drive. Like we said, it's going to be the dumbest thing to have to tell people when you're dead. Other people who have better stories than you.
Yeah, I'd much rather get mauled by a bear.
If anything, yeah, like, be able to tell them, if you're going to die, don't you want to die in, like, a extremely... Anyway, look, the second thing is, my call feature on my phone, I have to call the little voice a bitch for it to work. I'll speak into the phone, like, call Ian Weaver, and it's like, call Dad, and it's like, no! Call Ian Weaver. And then one day I was like, call Ian Weaver, bitch, and it worked. And then another day it wouldn't work, and so I was like, call blah blah blah, bitch, and it works. So I say it politely now, but I have to be a little bit verbally abusive to my phone for it to do what I want it to do. Secondly,
or thirdly? Yeah, thirdly, don't text and drive. Phone your bitch.
And pay attention when they teach you how to count in school.
All right, now fourthly.
Yeah, now fourthly, the thing about the paparazzi is what they do for a living is it's questionable whether it's legal or not.
Or a real job. Like, my mom would beat me and tell me to get a real job.
Exactly. Like, what I do think they do is despicable.
Yeah, absolutely.
If people know people who are paparazzi and stuff like that, like that's one of those things where I'm sorry, but I mean, it's not a job I would turn down, but I wouldn't really feel good about myself because it's legal to just film stuff with a camcorder. Like, hey, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna film, just stuff like I'm a tourist. However, it's also kind of, you're also using people's, like, likeness or whatever on, in mass media without their consent. And that's kind of illegal, too. But their likeness is, like, that's like if you have Hugh Jackman's picture and then you say, like, Hugh Jackman endorses rape or something. Like,
yeah.
And he can sue you because it's like, well, no, I don't.
Slander,
and he used a
yeah.
picture of me. Or even just Hugh Jackman putting his face with, like, a shampoo bottle. It's like, hey, you're getting business and you're getting recognition because of my likeness, and I didn't sign this to you. You can sue for that. So when stars say, well, they're using my image, that's the thing, though, is like, if a celebrity's claim is I'm just like everybody else, then you're not exempt from being filmed by random people. Now, that's not to say that what they do isn't wrong, because what they do is follow people while they're trying to get, like, errands done. Like, you know, Russell Crowe's trying to buy groceries, and you're following him. And how would he sing them to go away, Ian? Go away!
Go! It's so woofy, man. I can't even get over it. Let's swallow everything while we sing.
But it's not illegal, but it's like, really, guy? You're gonna, like, it's because, and the argument that the paparazzi or people who sympathize with them say is, well, they say, well, celebrities bring it on themselves because they're in the public eye, and that's part of being a celebrity. No, yeah, but celebrities are also people who have lives, and they want to keep certain parts of the life private. And just because you want to know everything about them doesn't mean they want you to know everything about them. I mean, and I applaud any celebrity who can stay out of, like, there are people who don't even try to be in the public eye at all, you know. But I see so many pictures in, like, People magazine and stuff where the stars look, like, annoyed, like they have, like, grimaces, and they'll turn it and be like, Jennifer Lopez is having a bad day, or she's mad at her husband.
Yeah.
It's like, she's probably pissed off that you're following her.
Follow me with a camera every day.
While she's trying to, like, buy underwear or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, leave them alone. Leave Britney alone!
I'm not ashamed of anything I buy.
You saw what happened when they didn't leave Britney alone. She shaved her head and slammed an umbrella on a car or whatever.
That'll make people go away.
Yeah.
Bald-headed Britney.
So...
are you ashamed of any of the purchases you make? Like, I've never made a shameful purchase, so I wouldn't mind them. But it is kind of weird. Like, say, like, you're a girl and you go to Victoria's Secret. It's just kind of awkward.
You're out buying tampons.
Yeah.
Like, Blake Lively uses tampons. Well, she's a girl.
Well, I would hope so.
I would think that, yeah.
Or
So,
what? I guess they could use those not pad things. I saw somebody on my Facebook posted, they're like a feminist or whatever, and they posted this...
don't get me started about feminists.
Well, they posted this... It was really interesting, actually. It was like this underwear that you can wear when you're doing your lady things, and it's not like a tampon, and it's not a pad. They're supposedly really comfortable, and I was like, when do guys get cool things like that? Or has that always been the thing, like with the boxer flap? You know, is that our comfort thing?
This episode of the podcast is not brought to you by Kotex.
Or Hanes, or anything.
Okay, let me clarify. I don't have anything against feminists, if I have any feminist listeners. I don't have anything against, women, wanting equal anything, but some shit just goes too far. Let me say that.
A little bit.
Okay, anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Is there a maleist? What would you call that? Masculinist?
Well, they would call a feminist would refer to anyone who is the male equivalent of a feminist as a chauvinist.
Oh.
But chauvinism is like, hey, Ian, nice tits.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of...
But that's not the same thing. But they would just say that people who think men should have more power are part of the problem. I don't think men should have more power. I think we have plenty of power, to be honest. And yeah, women should have more.
I have the power! Well, we were talking about tampons, and then that automatically goes to women or whatever. That was strange.
Anyway, okay.
Okay.
I make an effort to not make this a political podcast because as someone, I stopped listening to podcasts I enjoy because they started talking about politics and taking a stance on things, and I'm like, I thought this was a film podcast, and I stopped listening, and I want that to happen in this podcast. So anybody, if I ever go off on a tangent like that, please email me and tell me I'm doing so, and I will, if I don't catch it myself, I'd like you to stop me, because I don't want to be that podcast. I want to just give an opinion on, film or pop culture related things, not politics.
Yeah, but again, it's your opinion, and if they want to listen to your opinion, they can listen. Or they can skip through it. There's a little scrubber.
But they're here to listen to. They're not here to listen, to a news outlet or anything related to politics. They're here to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about Biebs, man. Biebs is killing people.
All the way back to Bieber? Really?
Yeah, but, then we got onto women and paparazzi. Here's my question for you. This will go back to the paparazzi thing.
Right, okay.
What is the one thing you don't want to get caught buying? If, like, I was paparazzo and I'm coming after you, and you walk out the store and you're like, oh, crap, this guy's got a camera on me. What are you ashamed to have in your hand?
Not ashamed, but I would say... Okay, me being a normal person, I would say a present for Tara, because then it's going to be in a magazine, it's not going to be a surprise.
That's actually a good one.
But, probably, like, anything, really. I could be buying, like, I could be walking out of, like, a liquor store with, like, a just
a ton of liquor to stock a bar.
Even just one bottle of liquor, and like one bottle of Bailey's, and they'll be like, looks like Connor's going on a bender. It could have been that last movie of his didn't do too well.
Yeah.
Now he's going over the deep end. I'm like, I just want some Bailey's. I just want to drink some Bailey's. Don't you want some Bailey's?
I know, everybody wants Bailey's. Put on the ice cream and the coffee. I'd be ashamed of walking out of a strip club or something. Not to say, I can't say I've never not been to one. I have been to a strip club. It was a couple years ago. Some of my fraternity brothers were like, let's check it out or whatever. That would be the thing I don't want to
so much. The thing is, in my opinion, some things they're moral and immoral things.
Right.
And in my opinion, sadly, a lot of those things are subjective now. Morality is subjective. Now, that's a whole other argument, and that's going to turn people off the podcast too, so I'm not going to talk about that either. What I am going to say is, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, pretty much everything is subjective these days.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And even people who I disagree with about subjects would agree that the problem, they could think that everything's subjective and that's bad because it drives my point of view, which in their opinion is wrong. The same reason you would disagree with anybody is because everything's subjective.
Right.
But the media should be unbiased and should not judge people really for anything, even if
that was really close.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at that van. Oh, you got to get closer to it. But that van has an Alabama plate. You know how the A on it?
Yeah.
It has SSMAN as the tag. The tag is SSMAN. He's assman.
It's like Seinfeld, right?
I don't know. But he either doesn't realize he did that, or he did realize it, and I don't know if he is an ass man, or if like his wife got the car.
His nickname is Superman, and he's just
and now he's ass man. That is the best license plate I've seen in a long time. That was funny. That was great.
So like,
hey Steve, how do you
the thing is, if a celebrity is walking out of a strip club, he shouldn't have to apologize for his actions. Now,
no, that's what he chooses to do.
You can quietly judge him if you'd like, because that's but the media is supposed to be better than the individual. The media has to be the ones who are above that. You know, the media, you just report. This is the problem with everything. This is the problem with Fox News and CNBC. This is a little political, but I think I'm being fair here. This is the problem with every news outlet. You know, Fox leans too far to the right, and it is not fair and balanced, as they say.
Right.
I think
every news program is kind of like that, though.
It is. Like I feel like CNN's the best one, but even CNN leans a little bit. So the sad truth is you cannot really believe everything you read. I wish that someone would come down from on high and say, here's a new network that reports facts and lets you interpret facts so you can make actual decisions about how you feel about what people do.
Yeah, it'd be so hard to police that, though. I say police, but you know what I mean.
That's why I meant from on high, you know. Or on anybody, really. Anyway, so the whole point is, you know, posting pictures of celebrities and then reading into their mood or whatever is, first of all, it's leading. It's an incredibly leading thing to do. It's just short of libel, you know, to suggest what they're doing or thinking. Because, and here's the other reality, they know that their readers will believe whatever they print. Magazines, even People, is going over the edge in terms of like, being like, come on. You know, Star, OK, Us Weekly, those are all trash.
Right.
And, you know, just because they might report some true things, most of what they report is horse shit. And they know that people believe it, because, I mean, people keep buying the magazines. And I know people who are like, I just buy it, they're fun to read the stories. And I'm like, you believe that, though. Like,
or at least it's in the back of their mind.
Waste your time. Yeah. Whether people realize it or not, that informs their opinion of people, and it really usually is not true. That's why I listen to every Inside the Actors Studio I can get my hands on.
Oh, dude, is that not great?
And those, now I will be fair, Inside the Actors Studio is heavily edited, but it's for time.
And you can tell it's super edited. But.
Yeah, but I try and listen to celebrities talk, you know. If I want to know something about Hugh Jackman, I'll try and go read about him, but I go to like him talking about a specific subject or, you know, his family or something.
Right, and that'll teach you a little bit about him.
Yeah, I don't. So it's this all relates to, you know, the whole guy following Justin Bieber. It's sad that we're at the point that it's the standard to like. It's almost like when this may not be true, so I thought I remembered a story about when Domino's started doing that 15-minute guarantee.
Oh, was that causing traffic stuff?
I think like a delivery boy died because he got in a wreck because he was trying to make time. Because I think if you kept doing 15 minutes, it was free or something. Which is a great business model and a terrible one at the same time.
Yeah, I can see that. I never even thought about that.
All it really does is get people to rush your order. I don't know. Anyway.
That's never really bothered me. That's one of those things that...
No, I'm like, look, I understand if you can't get here on time, I'll wait for the pizza.
But there are people that aren't like that.
You know.
There are plenty of people that do not think like me, and they'll be like, oh my God, it's been 17 minutes. Where's that asshat with my pizza?
Food?
Yeah,
it's because everyone wants everything instantly these days.
I hate
and because
it,
of technology, people can get what they want pretty instantly. Remember when it took movies like a year to come out on home media?
Oh, I was miserable.
Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But the point is, like, it's almost like that with Paparazzi. It's like, if you can't get this shot of Justin Bieber, you know, then maybe you don't have what it takes to work for TMZ. And it's like, you know, I've heard the guy who runs at Harvey 11, I don't want to say a lot TMZ, but Harvey 11 seems like a nice guy to me. Seems like a smart guy. I don't know. Whatever. But I really don't respect what he does for a living or what the people working under him do for a living, because it's essentially expose people's lives. And it's, I know that they would agree with me. They'd say, yes, but that's what the people want. And I'm like, well, then maybe there's something wrong with the people then. Because people should be focused on their own lives and make sure they have their own shit together before they're worrying about Kim Kardashian, which, by the way, is the worst news in the world, that her and Kanye West are procreating.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want more of them, and by them, I don't mean Latin people or black people. I mean Kim Kardashians and Kanye Wests. The world does not need more of them. But back to home media, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about just their past Christmases or whatever, and things like that, and then they brought up the topic of like VHSs and stuff, and it just made me remember, like, they were explaining to people, because that podcast might have some younger listeners, and
they were like, this is a VHS.
They were explaining to people, said, people, if you were born pretty much after the early 90s.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, if you were born in Whoa! Slow down, champ!
There's literally a trail of, like, dust behind him, like in a cartoon. That guy's gonna get pulled
No,
over.
I saw something last night that said, kids that were born in 2000 are teenagers this year.
Yeah.
I was born 11 years before that.
Dude, like...
So when was, like, the last VHS made that was, like,
legit?
legit?
The kids these days, like, most of them don't have a concept of what the world was like before. Is that a Shrek and Donkey?
Yeah! That's awesome.
Is that a lawn ornament?
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I think you need those.
Put a Shrek. I don't know, if you put a Shrek in your front yard, someone's going to steal it.
But, like, what about life without a cell phone? Kids have never experienced that if they were born... Like, when was the cell phone invented? I don't even remember. Like, 98?
Cell phone was around in the 80s.
Yeah, well, yeah, but mainstream, everybody had a car phone in, like, the early 90s, right? Like, I remember the first car phone I played with.
What I keep learning from, like, watching, like, documentaries on 9/11 and stuff is 2000 was a lot less, like, modern
than we think it was.
Yeah, if you
yeah.
look at what people are wearing in haircuts, it really is just...
Yeah.
2000 was still... The early 2000s were still a transition period from the 90s. Because the 90s... All the 90s is a transition between the 80s and today. Kind of like the 70s was a transition between the 60s and the 80s.
Right, okay, I feel
like the 60s and the 80s were their own definitive decade, and the 70s was like a 10-year transition to a new style. And then after 10 years, they got sick of that, and so the 90s were us going away from the 80s and finding what we were going to do in the aughts, I guess.
Yeah.
So this coming we're already in 2013, but the next 7 years will be a transition between the aughts and the 20s.
Yeah. God, I'm going to feel old when it's like 2050.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when all these whippersnappers
Imagine
are
kids
flying
100
around.
years from now saying, like, well, back in the 20s, and they're going to be talking about the 2020s.
Like, yeah, when we talk about the 20s, talk about our grandparents.
Yeah. It's like we're talking about, like, the Great Depression.
Wow.
So...
Yeah, the VHS thing.
So VHS is... it just reminded me, like, as far back as I can remember, I mean, there was always VHS... I mean, we were born after... I don't know if there were still Betamax players around by the time we were born. I think that those had been beaten out by VHS by then. But we were born after laser. You know, there was Laserdisc and there was tapes. But I don't remember this personally, but apparently VHSs used to cost like a fortune. They used to cost like $100 or something. Like it used to be. It was truly like, because there was no such thing as home media. Like you went to the movies.
That's where you saw it.
And you saw it, and then that was back before. And we're going a little bit before. I don't want to say before we were born, because I just don't remember before I was almost 10, like what I sort of did.
Yeah.
I
have friends that remember the first movie they saw in theaters. I couldn't tell you the first movie I saw. It was probably like Pocahontas or some BS, but I mean, I don't remember.
Me neither, dude.
The earliest movie I can remember back to seeing was Santa Claus with Tim Allen. That's the earliest movie I can remember.
That's one of the earliest ones I saw, but that was on home video. I didn't see it in the theaters. I think one of the first ones I saw in theaters was my dad took us to go see Godzilla.
Oh, the one with Matthew Broderick? Yeah.
So that was 1998, so I know I saw a movie before that, but that was like the first one I remember seeing in theaters.
That you remember? Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't remember past Santa Claus, which was a great film, by the way.
Maybe that's why I gave Godzilla like a fairer shake than everybody else, because they're like,
that's what you remember.
It's not a good movie, but that's the first one I remember seeing in theaters.
It has a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
That movie really does have a great soundtrack.
Too bad I think that movie was planned to have like 2 sequels, and then it just did so terribly that they're like, well, never mind.
Sorry, Ferris Bueller.
Anyway, it used to be you went and saw it in the theaters, and then that was pretty much it. And then they were talking about Christmas specials. If you would be the time where you would plan your day around what's gonna be on TV, which is still kind of what we do. We plan our day around, entertainment and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you could argue it was a little worse in those days, because if you didn't see it, it was gone.
That's it, man.
Like, it would probably replay next year, and there'd be reruns, but you have to check the paper every day, like, is it going to play tonight? Now, I did...
Check the paper to see what's on TV.
I
haven't done that in so long.
I used to do it every morning, because I used to see, yeah,
absolutely.
I used to check, 3:30, is Dragon Ball Z going to be on, or are they going to play Sailor Moon? Like, should I be... Should I be in the den today at 3:30, or can I do other things?
I remember doing that. I just haven't done it in so long. You just, at a push of a button, it's like... This is on,
And the thing is, like, this is the time. This is a time where, at least I remember, because there was VCRs, and then they found a way. Then they decided, hey, let's let people be able to record stuff. And so I would record things.
Oh yeah, and you can record it off the TV.
And I just recorded them, like if I was doing homework, like especially during exams, my parents didn't let me watch TV.
Right.
Which, you know what, is good, because kids are bitching like, my parents won't let me watch TV. Listen, kid.
Kid out there.
For you. And this is me. I was you. Now listen, you don't need television. First of all, because you probably have a phone that plays other things.
Yeah, that's true.
But I didn't have anything else to go to, and I didn't have television. So, especially when you're my parents made me stop watching TV so that I could study and get good grades. So, and even though there's times I would look at the paper, I'd figure out the show, I'd go in the rec room, and and I would hit record like in the commercial break before it, and then I'd come back in and stop it so I didn't fill up the tape. And then, like a few days later, when I'm done with all this stuff, I have all these shows I can now watch as a reward. Like, all right, I've waited for this, and now I've earned these.
So it was like CDR, Connor's digital recording.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't digital, huh? Because that's analog,
it was analog, yeah.
So car. It was a car. That was your first car, man.
Yeah, your
first car was a Toshiba.
And I recorded The Simpsons, I recorded Dragon Ball Z, I recorded Jackie Chan
I remember doing all that.
I recorded a bunch of stuff. I recorded, do you remember when they had right around the Super Bowl time on Cartoon Network, they'd have Bugs versus Daffy, the big game.
Oh, yeah!
They'd show old Bugs and Daffy cartoon. I'm gonna go.
You got to. You can't.
And the only difference was they would actually have like Chris Collinsworth and like people from ESPN actually pause the video and commentate like it's a football game and be like, now see how Daffy hits Bugs in the face right here. That's a big score to Daffy. That's a really good blow. And I thought it's fun to watch these professional analysts as a cartoon, and so I would watch that. I was young, so I didn't care about the Super Bowl, and I still don't care about the Super Bowl. I can watch football these days and be entertained, but I used to not really care at all about sports. So, and I really still don't. But so I would watch that because that was my Super Bowl. Watching that because it was like a 3-hour long block of Bugs and Daffy cartoons, and I recorded that. So And then at a certain point, I remember when DVDs came out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What was your first DVD? Do you remember?
I don't remember what my first DVD was. I just remember Daniel Salisbury coming to school, and he talked about DVDs, and I was like, what's that? And he was
that's
like,
Ignatius days, huh?
And I just remember him saying, like, yeah, we got a DVD player. And I was like, what's a DVD? And he said, it looks like a CD. I was like, but you play movies off of it. I remember him explaining to me what it was, and he said, and really the big difference, like, the only thing, I was amazed by one thing that's so many more things to be impressed with just a laser reading information, right. Visual and oral information, is he was like, yeah, I mean, and if you stop it, you don't have to rewind it. I remember thinking, like,
what?
Whoa. Like,
yeah.
Just the idea that you didn't have to rewind it.
Remember how expensive those things were when they came out?
No.
You know what my first DVD player was?
I don't remember when we first got one.
Mine was a PlayStation, or a PlayStation 2. Whichever one could play DVDs, that was my first one. It was cheaper.
Yes, that was ours too. It was the PlayStation 2. When we got a PlayStation 2.
And that's cheap, man. That was like $200 at the time. And granted, that was a lot of money, but it really, if you think about it, that's not a lot of money considering you're getting a game console, a DVD player. That thing could connect to the internet. That was before Xbox Live.
PlayStation 2?
Yes, that bad boy could get on the internet.
Oh, mine didn't.
That was hardcore. Well, you had to buy a $100 adapter, and I remember buying that. And that was my intro into the world of console online gaming. I mean, yeah, you had computer games like Counter-Strike and stuff, but
yeah.
I played SOCOM Navy SEALs like a fiend, and that was it, man. I just remember, God, my first DVD was like Rush Hour 2. That was like my first DVD.
Mine was like Field of Dreams or something.
So like Chris Tucker movie, like.
I'm trying to remember like the drawer. We had like a stack of maybe like 12 DVDs, and it was like. Field of Dreams. I'm pretty sure Rush Hour.
I have that now. I don't remember when I got that, but I remember I got it on DVD now. I mean, I have everything on DVD now.
Yeah.
Except for my Disney flicks that I have all on VHS.
Yeah, but this was before streaming on the internet. This is before YouTube.
Which is a brilliant thing in itself. Like, when did that come about? Like, what, 2007? Isn't that when Netflix came around? Sometime around then?
There's, what I found from, again, another thing I found from documentaries is lesser known equivalents of those services have been around a little longer than we thought.
Oh, really?
But like, I know that it really was not a thing to watch movies. I mean, obviously, if you were like pirating them, there was a way to watch it online. But then there was like a service that people paid for to stream high quality movies on the internet. Was probably around 2006, 2007.
I remember creating my first YouTube account. I had like 2 or 3.
Netflix has only been around since 2009, but
it hasn't been streaming the whole time either. It was just DVDs at one point.
Yeah, and I think Netflix has been around for a while, and because I remember because this is before college, so like this is before 2007. I know, was that street called Couch Plant Road?
Yeah, I think it was.
What a weird name. I remember before we went to college. I don't remember it happening, but I remember it was before then. Blockbuster, there's the irony. Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix because Netflix was still looking for like a parent company, to finance them and be a subsidiary of. And Blockbuster was like, don't see that going anywhere. And they fucking went out of business because of Netflix.
Still, I like Netflix more than Blockbuster. I mean, I have years invested in Blockbuster.
No, that's the thing. No, it's Blockbuster's fault. Because,
yeah, absolutely.
Because their business model failed. That business model does not work anymore. Blockbuster was expensive. Blockbuster was like, even at its cheapest, I remember, first of all, it was like $4.50 for a movie.
Yeah.
And
did you ever have Blockbuster Online? Like I think that was before Netflix, or it might have been right around the same time.
That was like I think that was like renting and reserving. That wasn't streaming.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't. You couldn't stream anything. It's just like you rented it and they mailed it to you and stuff.
Yeah, something like that. And but
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster made you. I couldn't rent from them, and so I had to be every time we'd rent from Blockbuster. My mom was there because most of the time I'd rented was before I could drive.
Right.
And then like a couple times when I could drive, like they wouldn't let me do it because I didn't have a membership. And I was like, well, my mom's a member, and he's like, yeah, but she's not you. And I'm like, are you kidding
I remember
me, guy?
that. Yeah.
You're gonna turn away business because I don't have we live in look we had the same address. We had the same. I'm named after her maiden name.
Irish John got me my first Blockbuster card. He used to rent me video games, and looking back on it, that stuff's expensive. I never knew how expensive video games were.
Like even today, I'm like, do I really want to go to Redbox and pay $1? Yeah. Redbox is great because that's a good price, and that tells people, hey, rent this, and if you don't watch it tonight, that's fine, but you're going to pay me again every day.
Yeah.
And that's a good business model.
And it's the same price for games.
A good business model is, this can be cheap if you're just responsible.
Right.
And if you're irresponsible, well, we'll profit from it. And of course, they're betting on some people being lazy
or like losing it.
But that's the customer's choice to give them more money. Like if you don't want to get charged extra, watch it that night, return it the next day, and that's fine.
I've been trying to think of ways to do that.
People will like speak out against companies like, why they charge me? Because you did something that warranted a charge. It's just like I neglected the insurance on this trailer because I'm reasonably certain I'm not going to crash it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, granted, it was only $8, and so if I do crash it, I'll think, wow, now I owe them like $5,000 in damage, and it was only $8.
Oh, I'm sure it's only like a $200
trailer. But if I'm responsible, nothing's going to happen, and I'm not adding to the bill of renting this thing. You know, like it's really that simple. If people want to know my political philosophy, which I know you don't, but it's not what you think. I want people to be responsible for their own lives.
Yeah.
I want people to take responsibility for their actions and live with the consequences. That's my political stance. That's my religion. That's what I feel about pretty much everything. That's all I'll say. And I think that's something that everybody can get behind.
Connor Dempsey for president.
Oh God, dude! I'm
just kidding.
My hair would gray faster than Barack Obama. Have you noticed?
Yeah, dude.
Have you noticed how gray?
Have you seen that Time Man of the Year picture? It's almost gross how old he looks. Like, oh, I feel so bad for him.
Oh no, dude! The presidency takes a toll on you.
Dude, black people don't age. And Obama looks 80. I mean, they don't age.
Obama went from like LeBron James to Morgan Freeman in like 3 years. You just like when he was debating, I swear he was going like, well, shoot this motherfucker.
Andy Dufresne was a tall drink.
When I first met Mitt Romney, he was a tall drink.
That's it. Yeah. Do it better.
Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about. I'm not being political. I'm just talking about the president. But I'm just going to say that the presidency takes its toll on. If you look at every dude, when Bush started, I didn't realize that. Like I'm used to him being like gray haired and looking the way he does. He looked reasonably young when he started.
Yeah.
He had like darker hair. And
I will say Clinton looked very similar. I saw a comparison. He looked very similar.
Clinton had like gray hair.
Yeah, but it turned whiter, so I don't remember. I was too young.
And he had the guy like sunken eyes. Like it was. Yeah, Jimmy Carter looked like the Crypt Keeper. Like,
the Crypt Keeper, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
DVDs, man, and then Blu-ray. I still to this day don't own a Blu-ray player because I know you can see, or not maybe see, but I know that you understand quality, and that's your thing. That's what you love. But
and that's the thing. Like, I lent my Blu-ray player and The Dark Knight to a friend of mine from one of my jobs.
Is it that much different?
And he came back, and it pissed me off because he was like, yeah, man, I'm really glad you lent that to me because now I can see what a colossal waste of money that is. And I sort of thought, like, the way you're you can say, in my opinion, this is a waste of money, but don't make a that's my problem with people who argue about anything. Don't make a declarative statement as if what you're saying is absolute and true.
Right.
Say, in my opinion, or this isn't for me. And you can say, hey, in my opinion, Connor, I mean,
this thing sucks.
You being alive isn't really for me. And I'd say, okay, that's your opinion.
That's one
I could literally, I'd kind of think, I'm not going to talk to you, but I would think, you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. But you're not entitled to label things as fact, as if...
True.
Because that implies that I agree with you, and I don't. That's why I don't like when people, like... I keep going back to politics, but I just don't like when people start a conversation assuming, like, they'll pretty much tell you, like, they'll spell out, here's what I believe, here's what I think about politics, not knowing how I lean, and then if I had the audacity to disagree with you, people get mad because then it's like, well, I don't see how you can think that way. Like, you're the one who started this conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, when people start a conversation with, yeah, it's a waste of money, I would say, well, I disagree. And then you got an argument, you got to... It's like, dude, and this guy is the kind of guy where it's like, he's minimalist, and he's right in the long run. You don't need things like that. I'm not arguing for needing a Blu-ray player. I'm arguing for, I notice the difference, I enjoy the quality, and I pay for it. And really, it's not really that... When Blu-rays first came out, they were $30.
I remember that.
They're still that much at MovieStop, but anywhere else, they're reasonably priced.
I noticed that with a Blu-ray, you get like the DVD and like a digital download. That's a great deal.
You essentially get 3 copies.
Yeah, and that's beautiful because you know what? If you're not into the whole seeing everybody's pores and stuff like that, or whatever the quality is, go watch the DVD, man.
Yeah, I will say it's a slippery slope because a Blu-ray is only as good as its TV too. So if you're watching a Blu-ray on like a 720p television, then it won't look as good as 1080p. So I got like a good Blu-ray player, I got a good 1080p television, I got a good HDMI cable. Those apparently differ as well.
Oh, absolutely.
They're better and worse ones.
That TV that was in your brother's house, is that your TV or was that his TV?
It's mine.
Okay. Because remember that time we watched Back to the Future on that TV?
Yeah.
And you show me, I don't remember what it was. I'm trying to find this on my TV.
We were watching, and it depends on the refresh rate.
That's what it was,
the
refresh
rate, if there's no motion blur, then there obviously is more detail. But the trade-off is it looks like video. And that's the thing. That's a whole other conversation because that's what everyone's complaining about with The Hobbit.
That's what I was going to get into, yeah.
Because The Hobbit was shot in 48 frames a second. And
Soren really wanted to see it in 48 frames.
Yeah, but we couldn't anywhere near
here.
And that's the thing. Like, and I was talking to Dustin about this. Critics are all over that. That movie's not getting negative reviews.
It shouldn't.
But people are focused on, well, the 48 frames was jarring. It's like, see, if you're going to... I feel like you can only make technical strikes against a film if your technical gripe is inherent in the movie as a product. Like if you thought the shot design was bad, or if you thought the cinema, But if you're saying one format I saw the movie in was bad, whereas most people who are seeing this and people who are going to watch it at home are going to see it in 24 frames per second, then why are you pretty much giving the movie an overall negative review because of your experience seeing 48 frames?
Yeah.
You're not giving a fair review. That's like saying the 3D was bad, this movie sucked. It's like, no, but some people aren't going to watch it in 3D, and they want to know how the movie is.
Did you see it in 3D?
No, I didn't.
I did, and I don't regret it or whatever, but I don't like 3D. That's a personal opinion of mine.
I don't like it either.
It doesn't make my head hurt, but it looks funny. It just looks funny. And
I think I'm watching I'm watching a pop-up book.
Yeah, it just doesn't look right. I mean, if it was legit natural. 3D, that'd be cool.
See, the thing is, like, to me, I could go without 3D forever because to me, if you understand depth perception or just looking at things, I mean, okay, the film, it's a flat screen. You're looking at a flat image. But does it feel like you're looking at a flat image? No, because there's depth of field in a camera.
That's how they film
There's a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, and it's meant to give you a sense of depth. So why do you have... It's, again, spelling out for people who can't do the work themselves. Like, now, not everyone who watches 3D...
Or if there's a guy with one eye, I guess he couldn't see depth perception. This movie sucks! Like, can you imagine having one eye and going to see a 3D film? Like, what a waste of money.
Life's bad enough.
That's funny. It was a good film.
But with TVs and stuff, like the refresh, that's the trade-off. But 48 frames per second is not for cinema. It's for documentaries. I mean, and that's when I would turn it back on. Is like if you're watching like Planet Earth or something.
Does it look awesome?
Yes, it looks so great because it's meant to be played out in real time. There's just... If you ever notice how documentaries and movies are shot differently, the motion is different because documentaries are usually shot on video and stuff,
Which is like the ultimate HD, right? Like shooting it on film?
Film is the ultimate HD.
Oh, video isn't the same as film.
No,
video's like digital.
But video, because of like progressive interlacing and stuff, the frame rate is different on video.
Oh, okay.
So that's why the image it's like 30 frames per second.
That's why that's the feature thing was cool.
So that's why video and that's why soap operas have clear motion.
Is that why they look weird?
That's why they look weird.
I always wondered
that's why when you're watching a movie with a high refresh rate, that's why it looks like that. Is because the image is refreshing faster, and so the motion blur and people think motion. I don't notice a blur, but you notice the absence of a blur.
You notice yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Most people notice that.
I noticed it right away when we watched that film. And it looked like it was made with like Tinker Toys, filmed from like miles away. You know what I mean? It looked like people were controlling puppets. That's how real. I mean, it was a really incredible thing. I was trying to do it on my television to show my mother. Because she didn't understand. I was like, Mom, let me show you this. And I had no clue what it was. And it's the refresh rate. So that's what I needed. I was doing something else. I knew I had to do with like 120 hertz or whatever, but I couldn't find the setting and I didn't know what it was called and whatever.
Yeah, so and for people it's either going up to 120 hertz or like your auto motion plus or whatever on your screens and your picture settings. Yeah.
You did podcast The Hobbit, right? I don't think I listened to it.
We podcasted about
You and Dustin?
Me and Dustin.
Yeah, that was a good film. You read through it, didn't you? Didn't you read through it before you saw it?
No.
I thought you did. You did. It strays quite a bit. It's not miserable.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about The Hobbit. I don't want to talk too much about The Hobbit because we talked about it when we reviewed it. And we talked about it when we talked about our top 5 and everything. Spoiler, it's one of our favorite movies of the year. But the thing about The Hobbit is people keep talking about it's the shortest book of all. Yes, but there are appendices. If you would
absolutely,
and these are like film people who reported on when it was going to be split and Peter Jackson's reasons, and they act like they don't know why he split it. And it's like, and then the people who do know why he split it are like, well, that's still dumb. There's not enough material. It's like, well, we'll see, won't we, guy? Like,
yeah.
we'll see. Like,
give us a couple years to watch them all.
Yeah. Let's judge them as a whole before we prejudge them without any evidence to support your
What do you think about Tolkien? I mean, the man was a linguist or something like that. Like, he was brilliant. He was a language master. That's what he did. Like, and then I think he was in World War I, World War II. I don't remember how long ago it was written, but he created his own language, and that's like off the Richter scale with brilliance. I mean, like, if we could create a language, we'd be millionaires. Or I think you get money for that. I mean, if you can create a new basis of communication and then teach it to the CIA or something, you'd have to make money. That's all I can think. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I would do it for. If I could make up a language, I'd be like, this is a language that only CIA people knows. Like, do you speak CIA? Mm-hmm. Like, do you speak, like, it'd be like if all directors got together and were like, yeah, we only speak filmology or something like that, you know? And people were like, oh yeah, I'm fluent in filmology. And it'd be like, yeah, gaffer, best boy, blaffer. You know what I mean? And people would get it. And
gaffer, key, rib, gaffer.
Or you would just talk like movie stars. Like, oh, dude, that Tom Cruise the other day was so Ben Affleck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and people would get it, but only people that spoke language. And to other people, it sounds like Chinese, you know? I think it's, there are so many brilliant people in the world that I wish I could either talk to, or I wish I could be them, or think like them, or whatever. Like, I was thinking, like, we were talking about technology earlier and how, like, kids have cell phones these days. And, like, could you imagine, like, let's say Einstein and, like, Aristotle were just chilling in this car, and they're like, oh, let me bust out my iPhone and record us talking about the creation of the world or something. I mean, that would absolutely just be I don't even know which mind rape. Like, you would just absolutely be blown away about think of all the crazy things that they talked about when they were, like, drinking with their buddies. That's never been documented.
It's never recorded, yeah.
And I bet there's some crazy stuff in there. You know, I talk about some weird things when I'm sitting around with my buddies. That's one of my favorite things to do with a couple of my fraternity brothers. We sit around and we drink a little bit and we smoke cigars, and that's what we do. And we talk about everything. Like, I had my buddy the other day, was like, his mom, doesn't drink or anything like that. She's like, and he's Vietnamese, so she's like, you know, like, why you go out drinking? Like, you know, why you not stay home? And why, you know, and he's telling me this, and she's like, well, what do you talk about? Because, you know, my mom, I used to go to my buddy's house so much. She was like, are you guys doing drugs over there? I'm like, no, Mom, we're not doing drugs. We're literally we're hanging out. That's what we do.
That's what this podcast is too. The whole model of the podcast was just, this is what it's like to pretty much be on the phone with me and Dustin.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is because Dustin and I used to just call each other, like, once a week or something and talk about film news.
And that's how I am with T-Money. Exactly. I mean, you can probably talk for hours just on all kinds of stuff, and especially with the world of film.
Me and Tyler talked for, I'm not, like, an entire evening, like 3 hours, about the Planet of the Apes and the timeline of the Planet of the Apes, like time travel, to where we actually got out, like, a pen and paper.
I remember you telling me about that.
And physically drew a timeline because we didn't have differing opinions, but we were both...
That was a long time ago.
We had different ways of understanding the timeline, and so I don't know where that piece of paper is, but we talk about that all the time and how we just...
Didn't you record that at some point? I can't remember if that was you or Tyler, but somebody was telling me about that. I think I was at Auburn with Tyler when you guys talked about that. That was a while back.
Yeah, we talked about that during high school.
It was high school? Yeah.
I'm sure we referred back to it.
Yeah, I've heard that conversation before.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, language is a weird thing, and it's neat that we have so many words that we can use to, like, talk to people. I know that sounds so, like, Neo or whatever. Like, yeah, man, like, what if we're, you know, but it's like, seriously, like, that's how, okay, how do I get to the gas station? You don't go ooga booga. No, you can either do it, like, two ways, I think, you know, visually. You're going to get to the Shell station, you're going to turn right. Everybody knows what a Shell station is.
Right.
Or you're going to say you can go down this road, which is called Blue, and you can go down blah, blah, blah Avenue, and you're there. And it's just one of those really strange...
Well, I always wonder, like, how did people come up with even the basis? Like, where'd Latin come from? Somebody's like made noises that, you know. So I mean, who decided that veritas or whatever it was supposed to be? You know, for truth. Like, who decided this will mean truth? Truth wasn't a word, so
they had to come up with what it was, and they had to explain what it was.
And you had to ponder philosophically, what is truth, what is false, what is what are concepts? Like, how'd you come up with the concept of something?
And I think
and it started over just millions of years of cavemen slowly figuring, slowly figuring things out. It's the same way you wonder how animals can communicate with each other. I mean, do they understand language or words? Well, probably not. That's arguable because
they can understand your commands.
Because dolphins can do math and stuff, so they understand something. Once man figured out, hey, I can make a noise, and then each noise represents like a way I feel, and then that started with noises, and then I don't know if who knows, who knows where even words came about. Like, think of the word they. Like, who was just sitting around going, like, making noises and playing around, like, here's what my tongue can do, like, like, deciding, like, and looks like a W, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or not even a W, you know what I mean? I'm assuming English is the first language they invented.
Well, wasn't the first written language was, like, cuneiform, right? That was the one where they took measurements for, like, cow or rice or wheat or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was a unit of measurement so that the people that were making money were like, you owe me this much money. Like, they knew money. They didn't have to speak, but they were like, you owe me this money for this much stuff.
Russian's one of those languages where if you ever look at it written down, you're like, these aren't even letters, they're like shapes. And that's the
same thing with like Korean and Japanese, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's something that, I kind of wish it was a different time, because, like, obviously, Tolkien understood that stuff. He could tell us where that stuff came from because he was taught it. That's what he was taught.
And he didn't just, like, when he created Elvish, he didn't just make noises like boop bop will mean this.
No, it's fluid.
It's fluid. It's beautiful to listen to, and it's pretty much it's really. I'll give him points the same way I give a movie points for this same principle. He created basically a set of rules or a structure for it, and he stuck to it.
Yeah.
So, like, he actually had, like, participles and things like that, like, as a real language does. Like, there's the past and future form of this verb, and there's all of this. There's the formal and informal. It's all there. He took the time and created a language. He didn't just make like a code map of sounds that mean things.
Which is probably another way to make a language as well.
And he also if you look at Elvish when it's written, it's symbols.
Yeah.
But it's not like, well, this word means sword and this word means fish, but they don't have any of the same letters, but they have the same symbol. What's that all about? And it's like, there's none of that. It's consistent.
It's like $3?
$3.50 now.
Oh, okay.
That suck. It used to be like $1 to get through this toll.
Stupid toll bridge. Have you, oh gosh, what was the film? Have you talked about Gatsby yet? Aren't you excited for Gatsby?
Let's see.
Oh, I guess, you might not be a fan of F. Scott Fitzgerald. That might be a thing, but Gatsby is probably my favorite novel ever.
I've heard people say The Great Gatsby. I think my friend John, it's John's favorite book.
I just like F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's my thing. Like, I could read The Lord of the Rings, but I'll be honest, and I'm a fanboy of Lord of the Rings. I love the films. I love the books. The books are a little boring. I mean, they really are, because it's very intelligent writing. I'm a smart kid, but I'm not brilliant, so, I get bored reading something really smart. Like, dumb it down for me, man.
Yeah, I get bored, yeah.
And I think that's why Harry Potter appealed to me. Also I was a child, but, it appealed to me because of that.
$4.50.
Oh, $4.50. How much did I give her? 3?
Think.
Okay, give her this.
Well, I think you gave her 4. Did you give her 4?
4, yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'll trade you back.
Oh, I might have had the 50. No, I don't.
5 and 5 is 10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yep. Dude.
4.
That's horse shit. That is horse shit. I don't think I've cussed yet. That is horse shit.
Oh my god.
$4.50? Let's take a secret way back. I actually know a way to avoid that toll, by the way, but it doesn't matter.
We can just take 50. I mean, depending on
$4.50?
we're making pretty good time.
$9.
So we can afford to go all the way to $59.
$9 to go there and back. That's why is it so expensive? Is it because it's the winter and not a lot of people come through, so they charge more? Like, what was that about? It's just
the new year, and like every year they hike it up because of the economy.
It's gonna be like $100 next time I come back here. I never go to the
stop
beach.
Using it. Like, it's getting to the point where I'm not saving this much money in gas, and I'm just going to take the long way to the beach house.
Yeah. $450.
Yeah.
That's wow. Oh well. Anyway, Harry Potter appealed to me as a kid because, well, I was a kid, you know. But she writes it in such a way that adults can like it, kids can like it, and it's very interesting all the way through, the way the dialogue flows. But you can tell there's a difference in her writing compared... I mean, any writer, you can read a writer and be like, he writes differently than this guy, and this guy writes it... When I write, especially, I write very much metaphorically. I just come up with stupid metaphors. Not stupid, I mean, they work, but I write really silly things, and it works. That's just how I write, and you know, I have analogies and metaphors and all kinds of things, and it works. That's just how I write. Some people write in plain, like, facts or truth or whatever, you know, and they can do that, whatever, like Tolkien and stuff like that, but I don't know, but I'm really excited about the Gatsby. I think, who's in that?
DiCaprio's in it. And who's Jay Gatsby. Carey Mulligan's in it.
Okay.
And Tobey Maguire's in it.
Tobey Maguire, that's it. He's playing a guy living in West Egg or whatever, or East Egg.
I remember, Do you
remember reading it in high school? Isn't that where we read it first?
I read the Cliff Notes or whatever, or Spark Notes, whatever it was. And, well, because I read the book and I was like, God, the thing is, and part of it was ignorance on my part, because if I'm reading a book, like, I'm very visual.
Right.
Obviously, I watch movies, but, like, that's how I learn. That's how my brain works, because I get distracted by what I can't see. So that's why it's tough for people who have ADD in school, because if you're not drawing it on a chalkboard,
right.
I can't picture what you're talking about unless I've seen it before. And if you're teaching it to me, I've probably never seen it before or heard of it before. So the problem with books is they need to be that's why I couldn't read the Harry Potter books until after. I mean, I couldn't read Hunger Games until after it was cast, because I needed to picture people.
Oh, really?
Because I get so distracted, because while a sequence is going on in my head, I'm picturing, like, Katniss in the woods. But if I don't know what she looks like they describe her like, okay, like this, but I can't picture the same consistent person visually in the woods. It distracts me, and I'm not paying attention to the story.
Yeah, I get it.
That's my fault to get hung up on that, but that's just the way it is for me. I'm sorry. Trust me, I'm trying to read more, and that's one thing that's hard about it. So reading, you know, a book like The Great Gatsby in a time period that I had not seen depicted yet on film, so I had no visual reference for what things might look like in this book. And every time they'll describe like an article of clothing, it's like he has the blah blah. If I don't know, like, I can't think of a good example. Like, let's just pretend I don't know what a cummerbund is. Yeah. They'll say cummerbund, and I'm like, is it a hat? Is it a shoe? Like, So I'm picturing him with this weird thing that, even if they
you've never seen before,
I've never seen it before, and I'm hung up on that, and they're talking about that, and I was just too confused, and I was like, I couldn't focus on what was going on or the characters, and so I was like, okay, all I need to worry about right now, like, I obviously am not going to be able to read this book, so my next step is now to make sure I know all the facts I might be tested on. And so that's why I just got the Cliff Notes, because I thought they're going to ask me, why does Jay do this? And I'll be able to tell them, here's why. Because it'll probably tell me in the Cliff Notes, right, you know, the themes explored in this, that's why Gatsby does this, because it communicates this idea. And that's all I had to know for school. If I was reading the book for my own pleasure and I couldn't get into it, then I would just put it down. Or I would, you know, maybe, like, go along Wikipedia summary, like, with every chapter, just make sure that's what I do with movies. I don't understand if it's too implicit. I'll just go on Wikipedia and read some of the plot and just make sure I understand what's going on and why. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read enough. I'll read, like, half of the plot to where I'm understanding, okay, so that's what's going on, to make sure I understand it, or to understand it in the first place. And then when I watch the rest of the movie, I understand, okay, I know why he's doing this now. That wasn't clearly communicated. And part of it's my fault as a viewer, but a lot of it's the artist's fault as an artist, not being able to communicate clearly what's going on. And that can sort of tell you if a movie is boring, or it's misleading, or it's confusing, or if the writing is weak, if you don't understand why the characters are doing the things they do. So this all relates back to The Great Gatsby, and that it's just really my long way of telling you, no, I didn't read it, and here's why.
Have you seen, so I take it you haven't seen the original film. There was a film already.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
And it's actually not bad. Yeah. I believe I watched it in high school in Miss Wall's class. Okay. I want to say that's the grade level that we read it in. But I'll be honest, I only remember Miss Pritchett and Miss Wall. I don't remember any other. Oh, I had Mr. Fancher, because he had silver hair. That's why I remember that guy. But who was my other teacher? Roy Burns. Roy Burns. That was it. I had them all, man. I had all the great teachers. But we read some great classics in all of those classes. I guess that is the curriculum, so you kind of have to read it, you know? Mm-hmm. What was freshman year was like mythology. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are really into mythology. I, for one, I cannot get into it.
I remember because that was like, I can't remember if that was a summer reading before.
Yeah, it was.
I think
it was called Mythology. I think that's what the book's called.
It's called Mythology. And it's not really so much a book as it is just like a database of like, here's all the gods.
Yeah.
And that's why I could read it because if it had been a story about all the gods and I didn't understand them, it wasn't just you saying like, and then Hephaestus did this. It's sitting there saying, here's who Hephaestus is, here's his dynamic with all the other gods, here's where he came from, and this, and it was pretty much just a big like definition book. You know?
Yeah.
At least that's how I remember it.
Or it's kind of, I guess, what would you, that's like an encyclopedia, kind of, an encyclopedia of gods.
In a way, but it wasn't just like a few paragraphs. It was like an entire chapter.
Yeah, you got the whole,
Hephaestus.
you got the whole story of Odyssey and all that, or Odysseus, I should say.
Yeah. So that's all in there. So I could do that. I wasn't into it, but I could understand
Absolutely,
it. And I could give it, because you had to give like a report on it, and you had to like write papers and responses. I got an A on that thing, and that's one of like the most comprehensive like research projects that I've ever done, you know, for school. Because it was a big research project. I mean, I did a paper on Tim Burton in college, and I did a lot of work on that.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was pretty. I mean, I got to pick the director and everything. Like some kids pick directors that the teacher knew, and I got to interview them.
That's the same way it works in music school, and I wrote some really interesting papers, man. But I tell you what, you wouldn't want to read them because it's just not stuff you want to hear about. Like, I'll write about this composer who wrote in the 1400s, and I'm sorry, but there wasn't a whole lot cracking in the 1400s.
Well, that's why I tried to make them, maybe that's why, I don't know if it was just a way to like get brownie points with like the professor, but I always tried to make my thesis fairly universal. Like, I'd always in my paper on like a really uplifting, like, I think this is something that everyone can understand.
Right.
Like, you know, like the way that Burton just wants to, he just wants to stimulate your imagination, and that's really what filmmaking is all about, which I very firmly believe.
Right.
You know, it's not that I lied, but I would always make the ending and like the conclusion very broad, so it pretty much appealed to any reader. And I made the thesis very broad. Honestly, that's the secret to a good paper: is make your thesis broad, because not only at the very laziest. Here's how I work. I do like a first pass at everything I do. For even the podcast, I do a first pass. And if there's time, I make it better. But sometimes I just have things to do, or with a paper, I run out of time. My whole thing is, let me get a product, a beginning, middle, and end for this product that I can turn in case, I don't know, I fall asleep for 3 straight days and have to turn it in and I'm not finished. Instead of doing a really good half of a paper and not finishing it. So I finish it first and then I make it better. Papers are hard. That's why I always, you know, I always wrote the body first. I never wrote the
Oh, that's interesting.
I wrote the first and last paragraph.
I can't write it without my thesis, man. And a lot of people have a hard time. But see, the way ours worked, they give us like 3 topics, and there's only like 12 to 20 people in my class.
Well, because I don't want to write the thesis and then find out that like
that you can't write about it.
No, it has to flow. So I would write the body first, because then I found out, well, here's what I guess what I'm really trying to say with this paper. Now that I've written it, I know what I'm trying to say, so I can actually put that in the introduction. I don't know if that's cheating or if that's just smart on my part, but like, I don't think it's cheating, because I wrote the paper. I can write however I want. I got an A on it, so obviously the teacher was either fooled or he agreed with my approach.
Mine had to be really specific. And, you know, I had the same teacher, and I'm sure you did too, because it's an art school, but for like 4 years. You have the same... I had the same teachers for all 4 years, so they knew how I wrote. And you had to be really specific. I wrote a paper that was like... it was called like The Effects of the Reformation, or what was the 101 Points, or whatever Martin Luther wrote. It was like the effects of the Reformation on incidental music and film. Because it was a topic, man. It was a freaking topic. It was hard to write about, but it's one of those things where like I used to write very much like you and like have this big like ambiguous kind of, maybe not ambiguous, probably isn't the right, but it was a big topic, and I could kind of go on and blab on about whatever it was, and then when I closed, I could be like, and you know what, goodwill to all men, and everybody, everybody can love this, and it was a good way to sum it up, and then I got owned by it. Lambasted's a word. I think that's a good word there. I got owned, just like straight.
I almost used that word on the last podcast we did. I almost said lambasted, but I was afraid that I didn't actually know what it meant.
I think that's how that works.
That's what it is. Lambasted means like chided or criticized.
Siri, what does lambasted mean?
Yeah.
Look it up yourself, idiot.
Yeah.
I wish Siri was sarcastic. Like, that's the cool thing about it.
I wish you could program her to be. See, okay, whenever I upgrade my phone, I want to make the voice like of that British guy.
I had mine as that.
Because I want it to be like Jarvis from Iron Man, and I want him to be like just sarcastic, be like, hey, and I want to be able to call him Jarvis and have him answer me, be like, Jarvis, what's this times this? And he'd be like, I don't know, sir. I'm busy. I'm pooping or something.
You can call it whatever you want, and it'll answer.
Fuck it in the road.
I call mine Alfred because it has like a little. I'm like, Alfred, what are my appointments like today? And he's like, you have no appointments. You are absolutely lonely. And I'm like,
good. Well, I'm gonna call him Jarvis then. Oh, I can't wait.
It still goes by Siri, but if you say Jarvis for anything, it like negates that word.
It recognizes it as a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you say. You can't say it in such a way because it'll be like, would you like to call Jarvis? And it's like, no, you're Jarvis, but I'm Siri.
I think you can tell, like, Siri, I'm going to call you Jarvis. And it'll be like, all right, I will respond to Jarvis.
I wish you could do that. Now, you can make it, like, my phone calls me Captain Badass.
Yeah.
That's what my phone, and you can make it, I said, Siri, call me, who's your daddy? Or I said, call me daddy. So when I go, Siri, who's your daddy? She would say, you are, sir.
You are, sir.
And it's funny. And I had this really long one. I was like, call me supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And like, it did. It was really neat.
Anyway, we're talking about the Great Gatsby.
We got into writing papers and writing film. But, I was going to say something about your reading style, and you were like, yeah, with ADD. But, a director, which is, I know you kind of lean more towards the writing part, but as a director, your job is to read the script and be like, I see all this. I can make this happen.
And that's why, yeah, exactly. And so that'd be hard. What's hard for me as a director, like, if I had to adapt a book, is like, part of it's good because the concept and the theme is there.
Right.
And you can sort of embellish the way it looks. But like, I remember when we read Fahrenheit 451 in high school, and I didn't like it. And then I read it again for college, and I loved it. And then I read it one more time for leisure, and that's like my favorite book. And that one's easy to read for me because the idea is so strong. The idea that, like, we are headed towards a future where people are sort of just disregarding books. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, people want what they want right now. They want to have it spoon-fed to them. They don't want to have to sit down and do the work and do something that's quiet and introspective. I'm a quiet, introspective guy, despite how much I'm talking, like, right now. But, I'm trying to get back into reading because I notice when I read, I'm calmer. Like, I'm in a generally calmer mood, and I learn things. I learn new words. I used to learn, wow, they really fixed up the Floribama.
Yeah, dude.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Because that place has looked like shit for pretty much ever since it's been around.
Yep.
Like, even though, even before the hurricanes. It's getting to that point where people are just shunning paper, and before you know it, they're shunning, like, the origins of, like, intelligent thought and everything.
Oh, right.
And burning, if you own written literature, you get your house burned down, and and that's the whole irony of the book, is that firemen in the future don't put out fires; they start them. And then and it's one of those classic. It's almost like a Philip K. Dick story where it's like the guy is ending up hunting himself, or in a way, or he's being hunted because what he's doing is the idea that he's hunting himself. Like, he himself keeps a stash of written literature, and he wonders why. Like, why? Because I'm not into this. My wife doesn't like it, But, like, and he meets that one girl who on the street who's always like, pretty much like, yeah, fight the power, dude, because I read, and they'll catch me one day for it, but I believe in keep preserving things like this. And he goes, maybe that's why I've been keeping these books, because I believe that. And then he goes on the run, and then he joins in with people who don't have the books, but they've memorized them, so that they can tell the stories to each other, and tell them, and maybe survive one day into a world where that's not outlawed anymore, and they can pass those stories on and inscribe them back down. And the whole concept is preserving history and preserving books, preserving these important cultural things, which is why it's so good, because I believe in preserving film and in the same fashion. So that's a great book, and it's so easy to read because it's easy to envision a future, things that don't exist, because the writer himself is basing it off of things you might be, even though the book's old, it's, everything architecturally is spelled out pretty specifically because it's a concept at the time, and you have to word it specifically so people can understand it, as opposed to referencing a certain hat in the Victorian age that most people don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Well, we've arrived at the beach, so we gotta sign off. But stay tuned for our next episode when we'll talk about other stuff. Thanks, Ian.
Alrighty, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.